Welcome to the GreenLight Investor for the week ending October 23rd, 2015. Our goal at the GreenLight Investor is to provide a resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this by using a worksheet with red, green, and yellow cells that will help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. If you need to pause this for a moment to read this, please do so now. We'll be showing some examples throughout this presentation, and that's exactly what they are. They're examples of how you can use this worksheet as an additional resource to help make managing your fund choices within your 401k a simple and easy process. Please refer to your own investment policy to make sure that the choices you are making are appropriate for both your investment time horizon as well as your understanding and acceptance for taking risks in financial markets. With that said, let's go ahead and go right into the worksheet. Our worksheet is divided into three different parts. The current weekly trends is on the right side, performance is in the middle, and let's start out talking about the investment choices. On the left side of the worksheet, we'll update this every week. The different headings include the fund number, the symbol, the fund name, and a description of the fund. We start out at the top of the worksheet with the core investments, and as we scroll down, we go into the satellite investments. The more conservative ones are generally towards the top, and we get a little bit more aggressive as we move down the worksheet. We start out with the money market funds, fixed income, then the U.S. growth and income funds, U.S. equity funds, and the next category is the international funds, and finally at the bottom we have the sector funds. We have a hyperlink that'll take you to an outside resource, and if you want to do some additional research, this is a great place to start. The fund name is down this column, and a brief description of what the fund is down this column. Center of the worksheet, we update the performance each week so you can see how your funds are doing against other funds that are available to you, as well as the fund choices that you've made within each of the different categories. Each week we'll update the closing price of the funds, month to date, quarter to date, and year to date return. Finally, we'll get to the current weekly trends, which I think is the most interesting and most useful part of this worksheet to help you make your choices. This is a relative strength trend change column, column V, and we center the worksheet around that. To the left side, we have a long-term trend rating, an intermediate term trend rating, and a short-term trend rating down this column. Column V shows the week-over-week trend change with all of the funds available to you. When you see a bright green light, that will be one of the stronger funds for the week, and when you see the red lights, those are the weaker funds. We keep a cumulative score to the right of column V, and each week we'll add our new week in column W. This is the week of 10/23, and we'll see that we have a green light and a green light, and that shows that the relative strength compared to the other funds has been stronger in these funds than other funds. When you see red lights, those are generally warnings saying that the fund is not performing as well as other funds in the group, or the group in general is performing poorly. You'll see down here as we go into the fixed income, it's been red with exception of the Jenny Mae fund. The fixed income's been red for quite some time, since August 14th. And we'll see that we've had mixed signals, but generally we've turned more and more red to the right side of column V. Although we are seeing some green lights starting to appear on the left side, so this is showing that the trend of the market has been higher, but we haven't quite confirmed that we have a strong relative strength yet. We'll need one more week in some of these. We'd like to see 2 green lights in a row appear, along with a green light on the left of column V in the column U for the long-term trend. The long-term trend is what I consider the most important one to follow, as that shows what the trend of the market is and will keep you out of trouble if it turns red or bearish. And when it's green, it's generally okay to be in those funds. As I was saying, that it is nice to see two confirming green lights to the right showing that the trend strength is somewhat sustainable. On the international funds, we're starting to see some green lights appear also, but we haven't quite seen the confirmation of the green lights down column W and X. The REITs have been the strongest performers in the sector funds, but we are seeing quite a bit of bullishness in this column, and we're generally seeing some of the trend score numbers improving. So that's a sign that we may start to be moving into some stronger relative strength. The next couple weeks will help us determine if this is a sustainable market rally or if this is peaking out right now. Again, nobody will know into the future. You can only look back and see what has happened. But with this system, it helps give you some indication and helps you make your choices if you want to be an early and aggressive investor or if you want to be cautious and wait for longer term trends to develop. I had mentioned just a little bit earlier the numerical values. And each of the funds, each week in column W, is assigned a numerical value. And when you string those together, you can look at the numerical values, and when those are getting higher, that generally shows that that fund is strengthening. And when the numerical values are weakening, that's going to show that the fund is generally trending in a weaker direction. So with that said, let's go ahead and see how we can use this to make choices within your 401k plan. To do so, let's click on View. We'll go over here in the ribbon to the Custom Views, and let's click on the My Current Allocation. Click on Show, and we'll populate the column H with the percentages that we have allocated to the different funds in your 401k. One thing that you have to remember is this is only a worksheet to keep track of the funds. To actually do the changes, you'll have to go to your website and physically make the changes on your company website 401k page. Then you keep track of what you have allocated on this worksheet when you're making choices. If you're not sure how to allocate your funds, there's a questionnaire. It's 10 simple questions, and we'll give you a guideline of how you should allocate your 401k based on basically your age, your length until you retire, and your ability to take on risk in the markets. We also have a one-click retirement planner. It's a simple one-page retirement planner that's easy to upgrade and change. It's free, and we'll just give you a ballpark idea on how you're doing as far as retirement goals. It's an easy one to use, so please feel free to play around with it. It's about 10 minutes, and you can get a good idea of where you stand. All right, to allocating assets, the first thing we'll do is we get column H lined up, and that's our current allocations. The yellows cells are the ones that you leave alone. Those are the ones that are showing the current allocations. The cell right above it is where you can update the target allocation that you have for each of the different categories. To see how we're doing, we simply slide the slider over, and I like to use either column R or S so I can see the performance on the year-to-date, as well as the short, intermediate, and long-term trends. And then I like to be able to see the columns W and U and see if we have two cells lined up. We do have two cells that are green, but we haven't turned long-term bullish yet. So with that reasoning, we're going to go ahead and leave our allocation to 0. If this does turn bullish next week, we'll have all the criteria met, and we'll take this 10% allocation and move it down to where we see a green cell in the long-term trend, as well as at least two green cells to the right of column V. So that we'll leave alone. Next, we'll slide down, and we see that we still have 50% of our capital in the money market, and we've moved into the money market because of the accumulation of red to the right of column V. Here we're in the same situation with this bond fund, the Ginnie Mae fund. It's been spotting between green and red lights for the last several weeks. Here we have two in a row. We've got a short-term bullish, intermediate, and if this turns bullish next week, we would have enough criteria to go ahead and allocate capital to this fund. And again, because of the red light to the left, we're going to go ahead and wait one more week and see if that turns green. Next, we have a 5% target allocation to our growth and income funds, and we're currently allocated with a 0. That's again is because we see so many red lights, and right now we actually have one green light appearing. So if we get 1 or 2 green lights appear in the next week or 2 weeks, we'll be able to allocate capital back into this fund. Next, let's go down and see how we're doing in the U.S. equities. With our U.S. equities, we have a 30% allocation. We currently have 20% allocated, and that's in this fund here. We had 2 green lights, and because this one stayed green, we haven't left it yet. So we're staying in this fund. If this one turns yellow or red, depending on the remainder of the funds, we may move out of it. But we've been tending to see more and more green to the left of column V, and that is the reason that we've elected to keep this 20% allocation to this fund. Our other 10% we could be allocating this week if we're going to be aggressive. I'm going to go ahead and wait one more week. I'd like to see 2 green lights appear. So when this moves over next week, we'll have this one, as well as another green light, as well as 3 on this. If that happens, we'll be allocating capital to this fund. And as we move down, we're seeing that we have a 30% allocation to the international funds. We currently have 20%. Again, we decided to be a little bit aggressive because we have 3 green lights to the left of column V, and we've seen the relative strength tending to increase over this last period. So we're being a little bit aggressive on these funds, trying to get in a little bit early and see if this is going to be a sustainable rally. If we do see this green light turn to red, we'll most likely go back to a money market or find another fund that has green lights on both sides. And finally, let's go down to our target allocation for the sector funds. Here we have a 15% allocation. We currently have 10% allocated. We have green lights here and green lights here. We also have 3 green lights along with 3 to the right in the other REIT. Since they're the same fund essentially, we're going to elect to just leave that there. And if we were going to be aggressive, we would go ahead and make an allocation to this fund. This has been doing pretty well, and again, we're seeing 3 of the funds here, or actually there's 4 in this group, that have 3 green lights, and we're just waiting for some of the green lights to the right to appear. If you're an aggressive investor, you could go ahead and start to allocate to some of these funds when they turn green to either side. Sometimes what's a good technique is to just allocate half of the funds that you would like. So let's say in this case you were going to put in a 5% allocation. You might only put in, say, 2 to 3% here. And then if this other red light turns to green, then you would finish the allocation. So for that explanation of how to use this system for allocating assets within your 401k, we have found that we have no changes that we have to make this week. And next week, depending on the market strength or weakness, we may be able to make some more allocations into or move the funds around based on our green light system. Let's go ahead and go back to our home page, and to do so, you just click on the custom views, find the heading that says with performance columns, and then click show. We'll go back to our home page, and with that said, that's what I've got for this week. If you'd like to get additional information, you can always email me. And if you'd like to download this worksheet to your own computer and get more familiar with it, you can go to the website, greenlightinvestor.org, and just click on the download. It'll be on the front page when you go to the weekly updates. And you can click on download, and it'll give you a copy that you can edit or personalize. And again, if you have any questions, certainly send me an email. But that's what I've got for this week. I want to thank you for taking time out of your weekend to go through this and take a little time to understand your 401k allocations. I hope you have a great week ahead, and we'll look forward to next week's presentation. Thank you. Have a great weekend.